With every passing minute, Ruby and her friends felt more and more uncomfortable. As they continued their way down to the nest. It didn't take them long to see the first signs of the nest. The weird cocoon stuff that xenomorphs use to keep their hosts trapped while the facehuggers do the job. And already a powerful scent in the air caught everyone's attention, and they almost wanted to puke. Ugh, what's that smell? Do xenomorphs even bother trying to clean up their house? Ruby said. Apparently not, Oscar replied. It wasn't until they got a call from Jason. Jackson. It wasn't until they got a call from Jackson. Yeah, xenomorphs are not really good at cleaning up after themselves. They like to keep the scent in the air. It's more like a intimidation display or something to keep anyone out of their nest. But what you just picked up was only a small fraction on what you're going to be smelling when you go into the center of the nest. And trust me, it smells like crap. What, you've been into the nest before? Remember, I followed the queen to the nest. That's when she was still a normal xenomorph. Oh yeah, that's right. How's Grid? She's kind of a little worried, but she's fine for the moment. I'm just hoping that the majority of those xenomorphs that you guys lured to my brother's base are still distracted. As long as they're distracted, we should be good. What I'm also hoping is that my brother doesn't encounter you guys on the way there. And figure out that you guys were responsible for luring those xenomorphs to his base and killing all of his people. I just hope he doesn't take it personally. Well, Ruby, we did kind of lure those xenomorphs to his base and got possibly the majority of his people killed, so... Oh. They continued down to the nest. Now they were really starting to go into xenomorph country. They started seeing more and more signs of the xenomorph's nest. And the worst thing is, there was more xenomorphs still around. And it took them long to take care of those xenomorphs. Ruby and her friends continued and continued after taking care of the xenomorphs. They continued onward and realized that the area was starting to get a little hot. Oh, why is it so hot down here? And the xenomorphs prefer to have their... They prefer to have their area a little hot, you could say. They like the heat. And there was, well, nothing to be said. And Ruby looks back to see Blake and Yank staring at something in horror. When Ruby and the others arrived, they saw what they were looking at. Corpses. They were looking at people. Rather, still alive, only having a baby alien inside of them, or already dead. There was no sign of a single new person in this nest. And they could see hundreds of eggs. But the good news was that the majority of those eggs were already hatched. But the bad news was they were moving more deeper into the nest. Then they hear a voice. So, you guys lure those monsters into my base. They all looked and saw it was Derek. Jackson's brother. He had a gun pointing at them. Of course, he was obviously outnumbered, but he was not going to go down without a fight. At least not without taking someone with him. So, you idiots lured those xenomorphs to my people and got them killed. Not like we wanted to kill them. Yet you also robbed from me as well. But before he could continue, he heard a loud growl behind him. This shook, made the hair at the back of the necks of everyone stand. They slowly turned behind them and saw her, the Queen Mother herself, the mother to all xenomorphs. Old, new, young. It was her, the Xenomorph Queen. She was far bigger than what Ruby imagined. The sheer size of her made everyone crap themselves. Oh, Derek said. The Queen slowly revealed her face to everyone. She looked at the intruders before her. Holy crap. Jackson was right, she's big. She made a small little hiss. She's calling her servants to come and aid her. But then one of Ruby's friends had an idea. He grabbed the flamethrower and pointed at the nest. The Queen, being a lot more smarter than she was hissed at her servants, telling them to back off. She's a lot more smarter than we thought. Well, of course, she's dealt with this crap before when she was still a regular xenomorph. She knows what these things are capable of. Look, Ruby said, we didn't come to harm you or your people. We're just passing through, and we're just gonna go get something. So it'll be really kind of you to let us pass, and please don't have your eggs hatch. The Queen gave a confusing look at Ruby, as if she's trying to understand what Ruby just said. Can you even understand me? It was a long pause as the Queen just stared at Ruby. She has not seen anyone like her and her friends before. Of course, all humans are the same to her, but these ones are different. They're dressed different, and they smell different as well. Especially Blake. She has cat-like ears on her head. Not knowing what they're capable of, she hissed at her servants, telling them to back off even further. The crew slowly backed away, heading to the direction where they wanted to go. So, could you, just let us pass through and we could just forget this whole thing never really happened, okay? The Queen just stared at Ruby for a while. Everyone waited for the Queen to give sort of a little answer. Rather, a yes, that you may pass, or a no, and you can die here. Everyone knew that the queen was in charge here. This is her domain. She's been here for 4 weeks. 4 long weeks, and she's watched every person in here die before her. Before the queen can give Ruby and her friends an answer, something stupid happened. Derek decided to steal the flamethrower on one of the soldiers and fired it at the nest, setting the whole place on fire. The queen roared out in pain. She couldn't do nothing but just watch her offspring get burned alive in front of her. She roared out in pain. Ruby has tried to get him to stop, but he can only reply, "No, you got hundreds of my people killed. Hell, and I bet you the majority of them are on their way here now. But being little freaking hosts were these things. I'm not gonna let these things live any longer." He started firing at the queen, but not directly at her, but the thing that was sort of helping her to lay the eggs. Ruby can only watch with tears in her eyes as the queen roared out in pain. Can only watch her offspring get killed in front of her. The queen not be able to tell the difference between who attacked her offspring and who didn't, and who only wanted them to go past, only wanted permission to go through here. She found it difficult to tell the difference. And so, she just broke out of her little egg chamber and started going after whoever she could find first. It didn't take Ruby and Yuz for long to get the fuel that they needed for the ships and get the heck out of there. But unfortunately for them, they heard something. The loud roar of the Xenomorph Queen. "Oh crap," Oscar said. "She sounds pretty peed off." "Well, of course she did. Frickin' Derek killed her offspring. Let's get the heck out of here before she comes and kills us." The queen can only watch as most of her servants get burned alive by the flames. She knew that every human was the same. There was nothing different. She still couldn't tell who exactly killed her, who exactly started her causing fire in her nest, but she knew all humans were going to pay for this. And so the queen broke out of her egg chamber, obviously, and she started to chase Ruby and her friends. And it took Ruby and her friends long to hear the monstrous footsteps of the massive xenomorph charging and breaking through anything that gets in her way. She was mad, and she was willing to go on a revenge mode on anyone. Luckily for Ruby and her friends, she didn't climb upon the walls that her servants and her offspring kind of do. She kind of lost that ability, sort of, and she can only run on 2 legs. It's the only thing she can do. But even if running on 2 legs, she was still quite fast. Not as fast in comparison to her servants, but fast enough to keep up with the running human. Ruby and her friends found a nearby elevator and took it quickly before the queen arrived at their location.